Hey everyone, welcome to my review of Promising Young Woman. Okay, so before I get to my review, the first thing I want to say is I really struggled with whether I should even review it in the first place. This movie, while, spoiler alert, I'm just going to get it right out of the way, is one of my favorite of 2020, perhaps in my top one or two so far. But I don't think this movie was, I'm not going to say it wasn't made for me, but it's a movie that I don't think my response to it is what's most important. I don't think what I have to say about it may be what needs to be in the cultural ether. I don't know what the right word for it is, but I don't know what I have to add to it because I'm a self-described nice guy, and this movie is really attacking the whole idea of the nice guy, which I think is a really interesting topic to explore. So I just wondered, what am I going to say? It doesn't matter what I have to say. And then I just kind of settled on the fact that we're living in a time where we're going through change, which is probably always true. We're always going through change, and societies are always evolving, and hopefully for the better. And I think it's really important that we are able to have open dialogue about the issues that our society is struggling with. And even if I don't say the exactly right thing, or if my take isn't what is the right take or whatever it is, I'm just going to say how the movie made me feel, and you guys can just take it for what it's worth. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a really important movie and just a really well-made movie, and so why shouldn't I review it? And hopefully, if you respond to what I have to say about it, it'll help generate a conversation. So let's just get right to it. The first thing that really stood out to me is when I was watching the movie, especially the climactic scene, and the idea of deserve comes up, and he is pleading that he doesn't deserve what is happening to him. I just could not help but think of the movie Unforgiven. It is my favorite movie of all time, I can say that. And the idea of deserve is a really big part of it. And he says that famous line, deserve's got nothing to do with it. Anyway, that idea of deserve is really interesting to me, and the way the character uses it, that he doesn't deserve to be punished, or he doesn't, like, how much punishment does he, it's like so besides the point of what's happening, in the sense that the person that didn't deserve what happened is dead, and she was raped and then ended up, we assume, committing suicide. I think that's pretty clear. And so that's the person who didn't deserve to be attacked and raped and just ignored as a victim. So the idea that this guy being punished for what he did doesn't deserve it is obviously what the movie is trying to point out. And it's just like, I love the way they did it in that climax. And just anytime, I can't help it. Anytime we talk about deserve in a movie, I can't help but think of Unforgiven. But let's talk about Promising Young Woman. And the first thing that obviously stood out was the acting. The actors were all amazing, starting with Carey Mulligan. She's a real genius, and I haven't seen her in a lot. She's always struck me as someone that's good, but she's never been the most memorable part of any of the movies that I've seen her in. But now obviously this is her great showcase, and she definitely delivered. And now I'm like, oh, I want to see every Carey Mulligan movie there is, because she was just so amazing. But really all of the actors were tremendous, especially all of the variations on the nice guy, who all were not very nice guys. I thought that the parents were just, they were so good. Their performances and the roles they were given were just so perfect. And this idea of, like, they just want so badly to help, and they know that their daughter is just really, really struggling for a good reason. They just don't know what to do or how to help, and they try their best, and they just can't do it. And so like those little moments of connection, especially with her and her dad, are just so touching. And then to realize in the aftermath, which we're going to be getting to in a second, you know, that he just seems so happy that she's finally turned the corner, and unfortunately it's all going to spiral out of control after that scene. So that's just really heartbreaking. But I've reviewed a couple movies recently where the acting was great and the rest of the movie just wasn't up to that level, and the actors didn't have the movie around them that their performances deserved. But I'm happy to say that that is definitely not the case here. And I know that I've read a few other people's reviews, and I know there's a lot of very widely varying opinions about the movie, and especially about the ending and the choices that the movie makes. But I think that the one thing that really stands out to me, and why I account and why I think it's one of the best and one of my favorite movies of the year, is just that the director and the screenwriter are in full control. There's not a single moment in this movie that I don't think was intentional. Like, there's not any moments where it's like, oh, they really must have had to fix something here, or they ran it, like they tried to get a workaround for this moment, or they're figuring it out in post, or none of that. It's everything seems so intentional, and even if the ending was shocking and not what you wanted, it's obviously the exact ending that the filmmakers wanted. And I think that's important. And so whether or not you enjoyed it, and I don't think enjoy is the right word for a movie like this, but whether it connected with you or whether it fell flat for you, whatever it was, it's not because they failed to make the point that they wanted to make. It is because maybe it just didn't connect with you, and that's fine. And I think that's the best art, is trying to say something profound and something specific, and is trying to make not just one point, but you know, a collection of points about whatever the topic is. And I think this movie does it expertly, whether it is the style, the color palette, the, you know, the bright colors and the music are, it's just so jarring with the subject matter, and this character who is obviously in so much pain and has just given up on, you know, any real human connection, and is so mad at the world and society, and yet everything is so bright and so happy, and it says a lot. That's obviously very intentional, and just like the happy face that women have had to put on for so many years. So I just thought there's so much to think about, and it's a movie that I definitely want to revisit multiple times probably, and just try to get all the nuances. Like, what is this movie trying to tell me about society and about human nature and about the patriarchy and men? There's just so much to reckon with, and it's not easy, and it's not given to you on a plate. And so I really just, I appreciate the real art that went into putting this movie together. And so that brings me to the ending. Obviously, it was a big shock and just haunting, like that image of her being killed on that bed and everything going wrong in that moment. And you don't want to believe that it's true. You want, like, oh, she's faking it, it's all part of the plan. And no, she just got killed, and this guy is going to get away with it. And even though he ends up not getting away from it with it, it's still just, it's just so shocking. And obviously the most controversial part about the movie is that ending, and what is it trying to say. And I think, one, this is the ending they wanted. And so it's not about, you can't judge a movie by what you wish it had been. You can only judge the movie by what it is, and either you respond to it or you don't. This movie is exactly what it wanted to be, and this is the ending it wanted to have. And so why? What is the ending trying to say to us? And so what I thought about after watching the movie and the way it ended, and the tragedy of it, with the at least we did get some justice. And that the wish fulfillment is that, the people that we thought got away with it didn't get away with it, and they are going to go to jail. And it's going to probably be a lot worse than if they'd gone to jail for rape or abetting or ignoring rape, but they're going to jail for murder. And that's going to be a lot worse for them. And so some kind of justice was served, but what that all makes me think about is another one of my favorite movies from this decade, Room. Room came out in 2015, if you haven't seen it, and that was my favorite movie of that year. Again, not because it was necessarily enjoyable, but because I thought it was so profound and important. And what I think these two movies have in common is that Room, if it had ended halfway through, she and her child escape from her imprisonment halfway through, and it's a cause for joy. And up until that point, it was all in kind of that fantasy world, and we only got, a few hints of the tragedy and the extreme horror and torture of what's going on. That was only hinted at because she had created this fantasy world for her son. And it's very touching and very moving. And and if it had ended with her escaping, and that was the last scene we see is her getting out, then it would have been like, oh, she overcame, she made it out, she protected her child, and everything it's a happy ending as much as but there is no happy ending after what she went through. And I think that's the point of Room and of Promising Young Woman, is that there is no happy ending. After your friend has been raped and she ends up committing suicide because no one will listen to her, and she is ignored, and she is forced out of medical school, which has been her dream her whole life, and all of the other things surrounding it, and her friends not believing her, all of that. And so, you have Carey Mulligan's character. How is there going to be a happy ending for that? There isn't. And I think that's the point. And again, they could have ended it in different ways to make that point. This is the way they chose to end it. But that is, to me, the takeaway is that when you have gone through so much trauma and society has failed so badly, and these people have committed such horrific crimes, when you are the victim, when this has happened to you, and yes, hopefully there will be a future for you and you will be able to recreate a life for yourself, but there is no covering up what has happened. And while maybe the individual, I haven't gone through any trauma, so I can't really speak to what that would be like, but I am assuming that what this movie is saying is that when you have gone through that, there is no happy ending for you. And so while in our movies, maybe we want to have that wish fulfillment of justice served, the reality is that after that kind of trauma, no one comes out a winner. And hopefully the perpetrators, don't come out a winner. And in this case, they did not. And so that's good. But the tragedy still remains. And I think the point of both of these movies is that our society has to look at those tragedies. Why are we allowing these tragedies to continue? Why are we allowing the people that commit these tragedies to either outright get away with it, or I don't know. I'm just going to stop there because obviously this is a huge topic and it's not one that I am an expert enough to say anything definitive about. All I can say is that this movie really made me think. It was expertly crafted. I thought they did a great job in every aspect of it, and I highly recommend it. And so I hope that you all had a similar experience with it. I hope that if you have gone through trauma, that this movie somehow has helped you process that, or I don't know what to say about it. I apologize that that has had to happen to you, and it's terrible. And I think the bottom line is we have to give more variety of filmmakers the chance to create the movies they want to create, and just give more people a voice in our society, and not have it be just like it has to be this or it has to be that, or it's just men making movies, or just this type of movie, or this is the only way we can approach a difficult subject. It's great to have movies like Promising Young Woman that have a very unique point of view, and whether you connect to that or not, it forces you to think, and I think that's a great thing. So more movies like this, please. So that is my review of Promising Young Woman, and please, if you have something to say, I'm happy to hear your comments, and hopefully it can generate a conversation. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you next time.